Alright guys, welcome back to Zach Ramsey Fishing. Wanted to do a quick video today on a bait that is very near and dear to my heart. It's one that I've caught a ton of fish on. It's one that I have tied on year round. It works in so many different scenarios, and that is the 5-bass tackle flatlock. And in this video I'm going to teach you how to rig it and then how to fish it. So hopefully by the end of this video you're a flatlock expert and you're ready to go catch some bass. Let's get into it. Alright, if you have been a part of this channel for any amount of time, you have absolutely seen me throw a flatlock. There's a couple of videos where I catch most of my fish on a flatlock, especially over on Lake Murray. That thing gets chomped over there, it gets chomped here on Clark's Hill. It'll get bit really anywhere. And so the flatlock is a sliding style jig. There's a few different jigs that are similar to it on the market. This one happens to be a half ounce. And so what makes the flatlock different from other sliding heads is, if you can see there, the upturn of the head. So it's genuinely like if you think the front of a sled, like a sled you would snow sled or whatever. I'm from the South now, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's got an upturned thing. So it makes sense, right, that an upturned line tie, upturned head, it's going to come over stuff better. And then it's also rounded and a little bit wider on the end here, and that keeps it flat. Some sliding jigs have a tendency to kind of roll over. They get hung a lot. This thing will come through brush, come through rock, come through pretty much anything you can throw it into extremely well, just as well if not better than any other bait on the market. Big thing is the center pin screw lock here. So that's going to, one, make it easy to rig your plastics. This morning it was freezing cold. It was like below freezing. Couldn't feel my hands. Could still get a bait started on that center pin. So that's huge. It's also going to, because of the angle, put less stress on your plastics. Other sliding style jigs have kind of an awkward angle to that screw lock, and so it puts a lot of stress on the plastics. You end up going through a lot of craws, and it just is kind of annoying. So flatlock, though similar to some of its counterparts, has stepped up the game in a big way for sliding style jigs. And I've got a lot of buddies who used to throw other brands, other styles of sliding jigs. They got this one, and it's the only sliding style jig they throw now. So this thing's legit. It's got a great hook in it. Got 4/0 and 3/0 hooks available, I believe, in a variety of sizes. So like I said, this is the 1/2 ounce, but then I've got 3 here to kind of show you some of the other main sizes. So smallest one here is a 1/4, a 3/8, and then this is another 1/2. There's also a 3/4 if you are throwing something a little bit deeper, something like that. You want that 3/4 ounce, maybe you want a faster fall rate. 3/4 ounce are available. I personally don't have any in the boat with me right now, just because I tend not to need something that deep, that heavy, but that's just because I'm fishing fairly shallow a lot of the time. Alright guys, so we talked just a second ago about this center pin screw lock, and that is what makes this bait so easy to rig. I've got a Strike King Rage Craw here with me. It's one of the many baits that I've thrown on this. Strike King Rage Craw, Zoom Z Craw, Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Craw. There's really no wrong or right bait to put on it. In the summertime, especially if I'm night fishing or fishing brush piles or something like that, and I've got a big worm on, I'll actually use a flatlock instead of a Texas rig. So it's just something a little bit different. Like I said, it comes through everything beautifully. But all you're going to do, you're going to take your craw, your creature bait, your worm, whatever it is, you're going to use that center pin screw lock and get it on there. Just kind of twist it on until the butt or the head, whatever you want to call it, of your bait is nice and snug up against the head there. And then again, the angle here is going to make this a lot less stressful on your plastics, and you're able to Texpose it, or Texas rig it, so that I can run my finger over that and that thing's ready to come through anything. It's also in a good position. It's not the craw sticking way up, and it's not the craw kind of rolling from side to side. It's got a nice kind of neutral, just kind of a craw working its way along the bottom. And so, that's how I rig it right there. It's really that simple. Anybody can do it. You want to try to get it pretty straight most of the time. But even if you don't, it's pretty hard to flip this flat lock over on its side. So even if you rig it a little funny, it's still going to work well. Another quick tip is this little 1/4 ounce flat lock is a bad little dude. I think it makes a fantastic shaky head presentation. It's a little bit different. You're not necessarily getting the full stand-up action like ridge kicker would, for example. But sometimes it's just that little bit different action. Now, if you're balling on a budget, if you're just trying to buy one size, the 3/8 flat lock is probably where you want to go. You can fish it deep, you can fish it shallow, and it's kind of really a one size fits all. And the 3/8 is probably my favorite. It's the one I throw the most. It's the one I have the most of in the boat just because I throw it the most. All right, guys, now that we got our flat lock rigged up, get your favorite craw on there. I'm going to tie this thing up, and every single time I throw this, I'm going to be tying a double San Diego jam. In my opinion, this is the best knot for any sort of high impact bait. It's got, you'll have 3 tag ends to cut when you're done tying it, and so that extra little piece of line in there really strengthens the knot and gives it kind of a shock absorber. There's a variety of rods that I throw this on. I just tied it onto my ALX Zolo toad face. And so with this, I've got 15 to 17 pound lined on typically for throwing a flat lock. Probably go lighter if you're throwing a 1/4 ounce, but usually I'm throwing this in the thick stuff. So I need some fairly heavy line to get those fish out. All right, y'all, so once you've got it rigged up, throwing the flat lock is pretty easy. Just like any other bottom bait, just think of it like a jig or a shaky head. Anywhere you would throw those baits, you can throw this. Perhaps you can throw this even more places. So you can see in front of me here, I've got some little laydowns, I've got some little rock pile, and essentially all you're gonna do is send it out there, let it hit the bottom. I think the biggest thing to be aware of when you're fishing a bait like the flat lock, whether it's a jig, a shaky head, a flat lock, is bottom contact. It's really easy to keep your rod tip up high, but when you're doing that, you're taking the bait away from the bottom, and you don't want to have your rod tip way down here, because then you don't have the ability to keep the bait up out of whatever it is. So I try to think of keeping my rod at 1 to 2 o'clock, 10 to 11 o'clock on the clock face, and just slowly work this thing. I call it counting rocks. If you're throwing it at rock, which that's one of my favorite things to do, you want to feel every single little rock. So you want to try to count, okay, I've gone over 5 rocks so far. So you're moving it slow. If you do these big sweeps, I see some people do, you do a big sweep like that, it may not seem like you've moved the bait a long way, but you've just moved the bait 7 or 8 feet. And so, you've taken that bait from where it was all the way away from, maybe there's a bass sitting there looking at it, and especially in the winter time and stuff, they're less likely to chase. So I'm going to try to leave this thing fairly still for the most part, and just barely move it. So I just want to barely move it enough so that I feel that next rock, and then I've got here, like I've got a little tension on it. Typically, if you just lift up from that 2-3 o'clock position up to 1 or 12 o'clock, you're going to be able to get the flat lock off. Again, that design, that kind of turned up lip design, is going to let this thing come through pretty much anything. And so that's what you want to do. You want to keep counting rocks, and then you might get hung on one a little bit. Just kind of lift it off, let it get back down to the bottom, keep going. A lot of times your bites are going to come on those pop-offs. So when it gets a little bit hung and you kind of lift it off, it's just like a crawfish. It got scared, so it pops up. The bass sees it, and he's going to go attack it as it falls back down. And so a lot of times, this is when you'll get your bite. So you do want to try to keep your line pretty tight, because a lot of times you'll feel it. Or, if you get your line tight again, sometimes it's it's gone off, 10 feet the other direction because the bass picked it up. And same idea with brush or lay down or whatever. Take it slow. If you're fishing it slow, fish it a little bit slower. If you think you're going slow enough, slow it down just a little bit more. And really, let the fish look at this bait. Especially this time of year, wintertime into the pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. I'm trying to give these fish a pretty good look at it. A craw is a real high protein meal. It's really what they want to feed up on right now. The water's still in the 40s here. So I want to give them a good look at it. If you want to add scents, your JJs, your bait fuel, whatever it might be, that's a great thing to add too. But this flatlock will come through anything. I flip with it in the summertime. You guys know I like some shallow flipping. When the water's up, I'll pitch this thing around just like I would a jig. So I'll just be casting at targets, letting it fall. If he's not there, I'm back out again. And I'm flipping on to the next one. This thing's super versatile. There's no wrong way to throw it. It'll catch numbers. It'll catch size. This thing really can do it all. The only thing you have to play with, honestly, is what baits you want, and then where you're going to throw it. But other than that, once you get that decided, the flatlock will do the rest of the work. If you haven't tried them, you need to check out Haddon Outdoors. They've got them in stock if you're around the Clarks Hill area. Otherwise, check out 5basstackle.com. You're going to want to stock up. These things are fantastic. It's going to be on my deck tomorrow. I've got a tournament, that and some 5-bass tackle jigs. Appreciate you guys tuning in for this one. Hope you will pick up some flatlocks and go catch some bass. Keep chasing them.